This is Jim Romer on this April 2nd report. Many people are asking me about the Corn Belt, whether we'll have flooding again this year, and also the corn market. First of all, I want to be very careful making high confidence recommendations right now in the face of this pandemic and lower crude prices, which continue to pressure the corn market because of ethanol margins. But here we can see a year ago, the map on the left, the snow cover over Minnesota, the Dakotas, and Nebraska, and then a very wet spring that caused major flooding, snow melt all across the Midwest. We lost a few million acres of corn. The corn market actually rallied. This year we can see we've had a relatively warm and dry winter in the northern plains and not nearly as much snow cover. So the situation right now is not a concern. Look at this a year ago, going into April and May, the Platte River from Missouri through Nebraska, how swollen it was. This is what it's supposed to look like on the left, but all the melting snow and heavy rains a year ago created a major flooding situation. Regarding global weather, the map on the top was last year in March. This is rainfall around the world. You can see some similarities to what's happening right now in March. Wet in Brazil a year ago, getting pretty wet in Australia after a very dry year last year. These teleconnections with the star represent the positive NAO, the polar vortex, both last winter and this winter over the North Pole. The polar vortex, the positive NAO, resulted in a very warm winter and lower natural gas prices. We also had a strong El Nino last year, relatively moderate El Nino. The numbers are a little bit weaker here this year, but we still have a situation that's fairly similar to a year ago. And you can see by next week, a major trough across the Midwest and plains, lots of snow out west. This blue area represents a lot of moisture that's going to be coming across the northern plains and western corn belt, but I don't think it's a problem right now to the corn market. It's a little bit too early to get worried about flooding. This area represents above normal rainfall, up to 500% above normal rainfall in the northern plains. Remember, a year ago we had the snow melt, we had the flooding of the Platte River. Right now we actually need some moisture in this region. My one concern may be the western wheat areas of Kansas, but I can't say right now we're going to have any strong recommendations as far as buying wheat this time of the year, given the global situation. Yes, wheat has been going up because bread shelves are pretty much empty, but I want to take a little bit closer look to potentially give you a wheat trade in the next week or two here, based on both Russian and also U.S. weather. This was a year ago, of course. Look at the flooding that happened, particularly in May and June after that snow melt. So we have time to really make a corn recommendation right now. Then we went for a relatively tame summer last year in June, and look how corn prices fell. So I'm not bullish corn at all right now, unless we get into a really, really wet situation or a drought this summer. We're going to have some opportunities to be trading, but right now, with so much going on in the world markets, I just want to focus on one or two things, and we'll talk a little bit more next week maybe about the grain market and also the coffee trade we recently recommended.